Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And France have just edged Ireland 15 points to 13. An absolute epic defensive performance by a French squad which really can go all the way. They moved to the top of the Six Nations log with 2 wins out of 2 after dismantling Italy last week. We saw a very different side of France tonight, where defensively they were just too good for Ireland. Ireland could not break down the defense. The only try that Ireland did score was a lucky bounce of the ball off a line-out, which saw Kelleher go over. But France, not always maybe the characteristically sort of flair. Both tries were very, very good for France. But it was just the defense. And we'll get into the stats in a moment. But I think at halftime we were looking at the defensive statistics, and they had a 92% tackle success rate. And that is how you win games. Ireland had more possession than France, but they just couldn't do anything. And you look at the final passage of play. With 5 minutes to go, Ireland had a penalty. They got themselves into the French half. But as the full time went, from the 10 meter, they were driven back to their own 10 meter by a relentless French defense. And then in the final moments, Antoine Dupont, what a player he is. Another fantastic game for him today. Just saw an opportunity and he turned the ball over, and that was it for France. So, yeah, they do go to the top of the log on points difference ahead of Wales. They are both on 9 points. An epic game. Maybe not necessarily always the most watchable game. Wasn't always very fluid and didn't have necessarily fantastic attacking rugby. But it was old school defensive test match rugby. With neither side really giving each other too much to play for. And ironically, what actually happened with France is when they went down to 14 men, when Bernard Leroux got sent off in the first half, Ireland almost scored. James Lowe was tackled right on the edge, and it was a brilliant tackle by Julian, who managed to take him out. That kind of woke France up, and from there they went to the other end and scored a really good try, and they just started dominating Ireland. They just really looked up for the game. Ireland had their opportunities to come back in the second half, and it looked like the comeback was on, but they just couldn't get past the defense. But let's look at some stats. Before we do, please do subscribe to the channel, smash like on the video as well. We are pushing for 1,000 subscribers by the end of the Six Nations, so please do show your support. So in terms of possession, 56% for Ireland, 44% for France. Territory though, 39% Ireland, 61% France. Ireland spent 20 minutes in possession to France's 15 minutes. Points per visit to the opposition, 22. Both two was much better for in Ireland in the second half. And then in terms of tackles made, an 84% tackle percentage from Ireland, but a 90% tackle rate from France. That France attempted 194 tackles and missed just 20 of them. That is the difference, really. That was the difference. On the other side, Ireland were asked to make 146 tackles and missed 24. And that was it. That statistic right there kind of sums it up, really. 2 turnover tackles from Ireland, 5 from France. The defense was just too good. They were just relentless. And, Ireland were going left to right, and just couldn't get over the line. And sometimes at certain stages, they kind of just look like out of ideas. And we had a lot of time where we saw, Ringrose and Henshaw and some of the centers sometimes running into other lines because they just couldn't find a way through. And as a result, Ireland sort of tried to kind of play the territory game where they try to get into the French half, try and go to the set pieces, because the France line in the first half really wasn't operating well. Tackles were pretty 50-50 over the course of the game, but the lines really weren't working for Ireland in the first half. And that's kind of, France in the first half. And Ireland were trying to target that, but in the second half, you could see. And literally, as I said, apart from the try, which was a line-out with the ball bounced awkwardly away from Dupont into Kelleher, who went tearing over and dived over, they just never really looked like scoring. Close chance for James Lowe, but that was it. We look at the set pieces. Scrums won 100% scrum success rate for both sides. Lineouts won, France 15, Ireland 9. In terms of points from the boot, successful kick rate, Ireland had 75% successful kick rate, whereas France had 40%. Jalabert probably, 2 difficult kicks. One I think that he probably should have gotten, which did come off the post. So yeah, it's probably an area that they would like to work on. Penalties conceded, 5 by Ireland to 9 by France. So look, it was a close game, and you can't really ask for much more than that, to be perfectly honest. And in terms of individual players, waiting for this to load, I thought that Greg Aldred was very, very good for France. Carried the ball up. He was immense all game. Thought Antoine Dupont was characteristically very good. But here we go. So in terms of some stats, Greg Aldred carried the ball up 13 times. The only person who carried the ball up more was his opposite number, CJ Stander, with 15 times. Aldred made 31 meters in his carry. CJ Stander made 34 meters. Hugo Keenan, I thought he was fairly solid, 25. Bryce Doolan, he was the man of the match. A very good effort from the fullback. In terms of defense, some incredible tackle statistics here. Paul Willemse made 20 tackles and didn't miss one. How is that? That is incredible. To make 20 tackles for a start and to not miss a single tackle. But look at how many of the French pack are into the double figures here. Bernard Leroux, 13 tackles. Mohamed Haas, 10 tackles. Julien Marchand, 11 tackles. Anthony Gallant, 10 tackles. Charles Olivon, 16 tackles. Greg Aldred, 10 tackles, none missed, one turnover. Even in the back line, the likes of Fiku and Arthur Vincent, both making 8 tackles. Dupont made 9 tackles. Jalabert made 9 tackles. That was the difference. As I said, I just can't. I'm sounding like a bit like a stuck record, but it literally just was a defensive masterclass. Some big efforts though from Ireland, from the likes of Andrew Porter, who made 7 tackles, didn't miss one. CJ Stander was characteristically quite solid there. But yeah, and suddenly you're looking at France and thinking they must be considered favourites. To be able to win in a situation like that, is massive. And I think that Ireland are suddenly now on 1 point after 2 games. So you're kind of thinking that they're out. Wales have had 2 kind of sketchy wins, really, playing against 14 men and getting the result eventually, but not necessarily the most convincing performances. And then England already having been surprised by Scotland. The England-French game will probably decide the entire Six Nations. So a fantastic tournament is already shaping up. A very good clash today. We saw a fantastic clash yesterday between Scotland and Wales. So it's been a really good start to the tournament. Let me know what you thought of the game down in the low. Smash a like on the video as well. Subscribe to the channel. We're going to have Team of the Week, a review and everything like that coming up over the next few days. So make sure you keep it locked on Forever Rugby, hosted on Forever Sports. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Stephen, and I will chat to you very soon.